All right, I've just got David having a good look here. Good idea to have a bit of a rest and a spell. Hope the boat hoves to well. Is all
tomorrow.
Sorry, David said it is going to ease tomorrow. I'm sure you wanted it to ease a bit quicker than that.
Oh, well, it might be.
Well, it will be a little bit going in that direction, but things will be more settled tomorrow. How about all the crew? Is everyone all in reasonable condition? Over. Yeah, didn't get much of that. It's a little bit muffled at the moment, but sounds like all is okay and much better than the unfortunate boat that arrived yesterday. I will talk about that shortly. All right, well, good luck, you guys, and just keep calm whilst this thing plays itself out. It moved a bit quicker overnight. We actually got horrendous winds and rain overnight. It has moved a little bit quicker, but now it's slowed down. So we've got a pressure of 990 at the moment.
Why don't try thinking about getting in by Friday?
And David has just commented, that you might want to think about getting in, is it by Friday or on Friday?
On Friday.
On Friday. If you can look at things up there and have a look at getting in on or by Friday. That's would be the goal. Over. Well, I've lost you completely now. I wonder if there's anybody else on frequency that's got you clearly. Is there anybody else that can tell us what that last over was all about? Please call now. Okay, I am going to come back to you when somebody is on frequency that might be able to copy you from the islands. There is another front coming through, I think. I'm just going to pass the microphone with the hope that you pick up our stronger signal. Here's David.
Yeah, good morning, and I'm glad you're safe and sound up there. There's a new frontal band that's coming in. It should be arriving maybe late Friday into Saturday. The winds on that are going to be northwest winds, good direction, I suppose, 30, 35 knots, maybe gusting 40. That will be hitting the top of the North Island. I'm just guessing, I would say in the very early hours of Saturday. Over.
Okay, we got the Roger. Thank you for that. All right, we're standing by listening for Cobalt or Imagine. Yeah, lovely clear voice, Catherine. Go ahead. Okay, you faded a bit at the end, so I will pick you up after I've just confirmed this. You are at 25. This is Cobalt from Port Vila. 2542 south, 16910 east. Going 7.5 knots. I think you said 152. True, and the wind is southwest 15. Give me any corrections and then carry on from there. Over. Got all that. That was very clear. Thank you. Yes, I guess the the radio just cut sort of drops the power as you go through. Yeah, David has got all of that. Any comments from you, David?
It'll ease late today.
It will
tomorrow.
ease late today going into tomorrow. The wind. What about the direction?
It'll be southwest.
Southwest still though. So you've got what you've got for a bit there, Catherine. Over. Yeah, we missed that one too. It might be a power problem, but certainly in and out we've got this morning. But anyway, you will be listening to the situation that David will describe shortly. I'll just see if there's any specific question you have. Go ahead again.
No, I think one of the
Oh, that was booming in, so maybe you found the power button. Fantastic. All right, clear with Cobalt, and we've got a boat coming from Noumea. Imagine. This is Gulf Harbour Radio. Is there anybody else on passage with a report? Oh, and by the way, the folks that are on their way, don't forget that when you get to 30 degrees, I will probably not pick you up. So I will ask for a boat in the islands to relay for me. So just listen for a call from someone from the islands. I'm hoping that folk will be helpful at this stage and contribute a bit of radio work for me. All right, I'm just going to stand by for a minute or two before we start off. Goodness, I had to turn the radio down for that. That was a booming signal. Go ahead again. Yeah, you're absolutely screaming in here. It's amazing. That's it's interesting, isn't it? I would have thought that it would be better off from the eastern side of our broadcast area. Sounds like a lovely day over there. It's looking pretty good on the satellite picture, Diego.
Yeah, it looks pretty good even here.
Okay, well that's good. Did you hear, well actually you could give a call for any boats that Gulf Harbour Radio cannot copy. They might be a bit close for me. So could you do a call, please?
Yeah, anybody wishing to report to Gulf Harbour Radio, tell me now. This is Megatron, relaying for Gulf Harbour Radio. Anybody wishing to report? Nothing good.
Thanks, Diego, and good morning, everybody. And yes, we will get started underway. There's quite a lot to talk about this morning. It is a pretty grim morning here. We have, we've had a shocking night with wind and rain. As this low gets close to us, it's 990 now, 100% cloud cover, of course, with wind. It's sort of gusty at the moment,
Sideways.
about 15 knots from the northeast going east, much stronger out the way there. It's been up to about 120 kilometres per hour. I hate it when they talk about kilometres per hour on the
By 2 for
okay, well, we'll call it, David's getting cross with me, we'll call it 60 knots out at sea. And the first thing I need to tell you about, very sad news yesterday, a 14-metre yacht put out a mayday call only 37 kilometres from Cape Brett here. They had to abandon the boat because their life raft had actually, they tried to get it deployed, but it got lost in the swells. The swells were 5 to 6 metres, 40 to 50 knots of wind they were dealing with. Anyway, an Orion spotted them and dropped the life raft and then winched them on board, including the one person who had died. One was seriously injured and 2 were lightly injured. Really sad news. It was a monohull that had come from Fiji. Not a good choice of weather windows, unfortunately. and their boat name is not released yet because of the death. They are still trying to contact relations, and the police will not issue the boat name until that has been done. So I guess a very sobering result there for everybody, and just not good news at all for this part of the season. We've just been talking to Cobalt, who are on their way from Port Vila. They were at 2542 and 169 with southwest 15, clear skies and a 2.5 metre swell. Envy, they are hove 2 further south and east of that, 2629 and 17325 with 25 knots roughly of southwest wind and 3.5 metre seas. Hopefully they will moderate soon as this thing moves, and they will be able to get in here Friday time frame, because that's when after that the next front comes through. We're certainly getting our share of not very nice weather here at the moment, which is why you need to pay a lot of attention to passage planning. It is a beautiful day in New Caledonia. At Prony, Exocet Strike reported calm 1012, 10% cloud cover. Coromiko are on their way from Dinnerau. They left yesterday. They're about 120 miles south, 110 I think it was, a couple of hours ago, at 19, 19027 and 177 with very light west-northwest. So they did have a bit of a lightning show with rain at midnight. So there you go. All right, I know you're more interested in weather than you are in news, but whilst everyone's getting settled, we'll cover a bit of news. Port Vila at the moment, good morning to Eagles winds, 6 knots south-southeast, completely overcast with a bar of 1011, and a rainy morning. Yes, Fiji looks pretty grim actually on the satellite picture. Port Dinnerau, good morning to Ulumpale. On Lucan, some thunder and lightning during the early morning, about 4 o'clock. That was an early morning wake-up, wasn't it? 1013, and now the wind is about 4 to 6 knots from the southeast with 22. Okay, just a little bit of news. This is for Whistler, actually, in Vancouver. They've just announced that they had their coldest day in 123 years. It was on October the 10th. Boy, they're suffering from global warming there, aren't they?
Oh, it's a bummer.
Yes, it's a real bummer. Okay, really serious protests in Hong Kong now. They've defied the ban on wearing the face mask, and police have arrested a lot of people, including 750 children. I wonder what they do with those. Open up a big play centre or something. Real drama in the northwest of Syria there. The Kurds now have reached a deal with Damascus. This was brokered, in fact, by Russia, who are probably quite excited that the US has pulled out of the area because they certainly need some help there to stop the Turks coming through. About 130,000 people have fled the Turkish offensive. The Kurds, unfortunately, have been controlling the ISIS, and particularly a large ISIS internment camp, and the Turks unfortunately hit the walls of one of that, so some of those people have escaped, which has probably left a lot of ISIS people now back on the run. But anyway, Russia has brokered the discussion between the Kurds and Assad, and they are looking at trying to get some sort of agreement between Turkey and Syria/Kurds. The African swine fever, that deadly virus that's been wreaking havoc in Asia with all of the pig farms, unfortunately it's been detected in Timor-Leste, which is just 680 kilometres north of Darwin. So I suspect shipping patrols are likely to be very restrictive in that area, because certainly the Aussies will not want to get African swine fever in their country. I know we have somebody from Hungary out there. The opposition in Hungary have won the mayoral race in Budapest. And talking about that part of the world, Austria has a very new and interesting law that relates sort of to Brexit. they have now decided that people who left Austria prior to the 15th of May 1955, because of the fear of Nazi persecution, and who are citizens now of another country, can apply free of charge to be Austrians again. Now, this affects those that went to the UK and their children and their grandchildren. So, because of Brexit, those people are now having to look at getting, the ability to move in and out of the EU. So, they have offered them the opportunity to become Austrian citizens. I'm not sure how it goes. It's free of charge to go through all of that. So, interesting. All right. Just to clarify for those people following the World Cup, the quarterfinals are on this weekend. Australia play England and New Zealand play Ireland. That's on Saturday. And then on Sunday, Wales play France and Japan play South Africa. So those are quite important games in the weekend. Today, or sort of just past actually, the opening of Parliament in the UK. Lots of wonderful pomp and pageantry, plus the Queen's speech. She read out a list of about 26 bills and other ideas related to Brexit, crime, the NHS and so on. Wasn't received very well by Labour, but that's sort of pretty usual for the opposition. That's about it from what I've got. I think what I will do is likely pass the microphone to David, because there is quite a bit of weather to get through. We were pounded, as I mentioned, for those that have just joined us, we were really pounded by rain overnight. There's a lot of surface flooding. The Coromandel, that always gets the wind, particularly rain and wind when it's coming from up there. 130 millimetres in 12 hours and 182 millimetres in 24 hours. So it's really, really wet. They're sort of used to it, but a lot of freedom campers and the like have been moving to escape the floods overnight. Our situation at the moment here, 990 millibars, hectopascals,
No,
100% cloud cover and rain. It's just not a day for going out.
May have broken 989.
989. We'll have to go and check whilst you're talking. But that's the way it is. And for those that missed my earlier talk, the 14-metre boat that sunk was only 37 kilometres from Cape Brett. Their life raft. It's sort of useful to go through what you would do in the situation, sort of have a think about drogues and sea anchors and the rope, particularly of your life raft. They do need a bit of stretch, because usually when you need to deploy the life raft, the seas are not very wonderful, and unfortunately theirs snapped and disappeared on them. It was an amazing rescue situation. A lot of people involved, the Coast Guard from the Bay of Islands, trying to battle those seas. I don't envy them that. And the helicopters, the West Cape helicopter and the Orion from here. The Orion was the one that actually dropped the life raft that they were eventually hoisted from. Fortunately, much better hoist. I was reading about a situation in Japan. They were hoisting people up from the flooded areas, and one of the firemen didn't secure the hoist very well, and a woman plunged about 40 metres to her death when they were hoisting her up. Okay, that's about it from here. I'm just going to see if Imagine is on frequency. Imagine, Imagine. Okay, very, very light from you, but we'll hopefully somebody will be able to copy if I cannot. Go ahead, over. Well, I've got nothing from that. I'm just going to check with Mesa Troy. Diego, did you copy that vote at all?
Low, couldn't hear anything.
No, I can't hear anything either. And I know Rachel is probably a bit disappointed. She's listening to try and find out where you guys are. Does anybody manage to hear the boat that has just called? Imagine they are on their way from Noumea to New Zealand. I would like a relay. Obviously, with the weather being as it is, I would like to know where they are. Please help if you can. Over. Okay, I've got a couple, thank you. I think that was you, Catherine, was it? Over?
Yes, I'd like to imagine that 2693 South 16832 East. Over?
Oh, very good. So you're pretty close to them. 2633 South and 16832 East. I suspect, could you give me their course and speed? Over?
Yeah, imagine you go ahead with course and speed, please. Over?
Gee, it's good radio. The mention's got to do some work on that brig.
South Harbour, course is 150 true, speed 6 knots. Over?
Boy, you are really booming in now, but absolutely nothing from them. Thank you very much. And I'm going to assume that conditions are just like your Southwest 15 and so on and so forth. Over?
Imagine you've got the same conditions as us. Over? South Harbour, yeah, that's correct. We're enjoying the same conditions. Over?
Well, enjoying. Thank you for that. David's just looking what those conditions were again. 2.5 meters southwest swell, southwest 15ish, and clear skies. At least you've got clear skies. So, and I'll pass on greetings from Rachel to the crew there. All right. That's about it from me. I've got very good signal from you, and I don't think there was anybody else at the stage, so I'm going to pass the microphone. Oh, actually, I'll just do a pause. David says, oh, but I'll do a pause just to make sure there is nobody else. Okay, I'm passing the microphone. All yours.
All right, good morning. Not a good morning for some, that's for sure. And yeah, we've got the telephone call last night from RCC. We get too many of those. Anyway, we'll start with the synoptic picture. The intense depression, and it is an intense depression, sitting pretty much over the tip of New Zealand's North Island, almost over us actually, a little bit further to the north. Gale warnings are still up, as you would imagine, for Kaipara, Brett, and Colville. And remember, those are the three areas. Brett's the Opua area, Colville is the Marsden area, Kaipara is the west side of the North Island. To give you an idea of the circulation of this depression, that yesterday we saw east 40 knots for Brett's area, Brett, the whole Opua area. Turns out that in reality 40 to 50 knots there. Anyway, expect it to shift northwest 35 to 40 this morning, so it's dropping just a little bit. Seas were running, as Patricia said, 5 to 6 meters. 5 to 6 meters. Things are going to ease a little bit there, then shift to southwest 25 by Thursday. Then we've got another shift on Friday back to the northwest, and that'll be 20, 25 knots. What's happening is by Wednesday, the depression is going to slip to the east, while a very, very short-lived ridge is going to cross the North Island. Then the northwesterlies develop again ahead of the next low and front, which is going to cross the South Island early Friday, and the cold front will be sliding over the North Island by late Friday, early Saturday. This quick succession of depressions has made passage arrivals dangerous, to say the least. All to have been avoided if possible, but some people unfortunately have not listened and just carried on. Not good. By Wednesday, that's the 16th, the current depression should be directly over East Cape, here in New Zealand, East Cape. Its frontal band is going to continue to extend north over Minerva, actually, and on to Fiji. Then it continues to northern Vanuatu, so it's a long string, if you will, of quite bad weather. Now, today the frontal edge is about over Minerva. We haven't heard anybody from Minerva. It's really strange. About 10, 12 boats we heard were there. We know certainly Midnight Sun is there because I've been emailing them, but radio-wise, we haven't heard from anyone, and that is strange. The passage route also has a number of frontal bands and areas of quite active convective activity. Winds near Minerva, back to Minerva again, depending upon where the axis of that trough is, winds about 20 knots in the mean from the north-northeast on the eastern side or the northern side of the front, and west-southwest winds on the other side. And those winds are fairly light to moderate, 10 to 15 knots maybe in the mean. Higher gusts, of course, within the front itself. And those who left Minerva, and there apparently were a number of boats that did leave Minerva Reef, winds by Wednesday should be southerly quadrant, light to moderate. About the same thing on Thursday. But again, on Friday, nearing New Zealand, the winds are going to back the northwesterlies, 15 to 20 prior to the front. And that front, again, should arrive northern New Zealand in the wee hours of Saturday, I think. That's the 19th, Saturday the 19th. And winds in that front look to be about 30 knots, maybe gusting 40. Looks like it's not a very wide front, so it should go through fairly quickly. Now, the next depression that reaches New Zealand looks to be Tuesday the 22nd, with southwesterly winds 25 to 30. Now, at that point, the next high enters the Tasman. Again, that's Tuesday the 22nd. So the next high shows up. That'll be roughly east of Sydney, to give you an idea where it is. Central pressure about 1028 millibar, 1028. So fairly strong. Probably will grow. Best arrival date now looks to be Sunday, the 20th of October, for those that are way up there near the islands. And winds then should be northwesterlies about 15. And these winds are from the departing ridge. Looking very long range, the next severe depression to hit New Zealand may arrive around Wednesday, the 30th of October. And that, of course, will be preceded by northwest winds. And that's typical. Sometimes it isn't that direction, but 80% of the time they're northwesterlies. And on that date, the next high is going to be near Tasmania, and it's going to be a pretty strong one. Estimated central pressure for that one, about 1032 millibar, 1032. Okay, looking up at the tropics now, shifting gears, a great deal of convective activity is quite evident up there. The Solomon's Trough, still active, running over the Santa Cruz Islands. It goes on then to southwestern Fiji, basically. Now, there is a tropical disturbance that I see just north of Rotuma, and it has troughs extending sort of like wagon wheel spokes from the middle of this disturbance. The affected areas, there's lots of them, but they include Tuvalu, Tokelau. One of the troughs runs onward to the Northern Cooks or near the Northern Cooks. So a lot of activity up there. I'm sure there's yachts up there, but we don't know who they are. Tonga now on satellite imagery shows broken to scattered clouds. Some of these are rain bearing. Winds by lunch for the Vau and the Hapais look to be northeast, about 10 to 15, maybe east-northeast by dinner. Tomorrow they'll back to northeasterlies again, 15 to 20, a little bit stronger. By Thursday, maybe earlier, a trough does enter the picture. Winds shift northerlies to southerlies as the trough enters and leaves the area. Winds this morning, give you a few actuals. Laval, east 4 to 8. Now these are METARs. These are actual reports from the airports. So east 4 to 8, scattered to broken, barometer 1012. You want to check your barometer. The Hapais east 6, scattered to broken, and the same pressure 1012 on the barometer. Fiji now, plenty of cloud on imagery as the cloud is starting its slide over the group. Winds projected by Fiji Met to be mainly easterlies, 15 to 20, and shifting east to northeast. Expect plenty of rain, including thunderstorms, and I would believe that looking at the satellite imagery, the very, very cold cloud that we see there. That indicates very, very high clouds, so cumulus congestus or CV clouds. Radar loops show returns everywhere, virtually everywhere, except east of Viti Levu, and the reason for that is the Missouri radar is still out of commission. No report as to when they're going to get it fixed. So I don't have any data that's east of Viti Levu on radar, but looking at satellite imagery, I'm sure we've got rain virtually everywhere. Now, my wind ideas are a little bit different from Fiji Met. I see mostly northeast winds out on the open water, about 10 to 15 today. Tomorrow, mostly northeasterlies, and they'll be clashing with southeasterlies that are south of Viti Levu and Kundabu. So that where they meet, that then becomes more or less the axis of the trough. Over to Vanuatu now, not bad on imagery at all, except for the far north. The trough from the Solomons does reach the Torres and the Banks and a little bit south of there. The clouds are scattered, and again to the south, fine weather, but not so well to the north. So I think we're going to see showers for Luganville, may get down to Port Vila as well. The winds look to be light southerlies, about 10 to 15. Not much good for going south, that's for sure. Tomorrow we should see a shift to south-southeast, maybe about 10 to 15 knots in the southern areas, but stronger in the north. Looks like 15 to 20, in some areas getting up to 25 knots. And on Thursday, southeast winds, I'd say maybe 20 knots up and down the chain. Over to Newcal, looks very nice on imagery, and the both reports we've gotten confirm that. I do see bands of cloud passing over, though. If you look up, you'll see these going south to north, basically. So these bands are off in the mid-levels of the upper atmosphere, in between nice blue sky. Winds for the southern lagoon, mostly southerlies, around 15 knots, easing later in the day, I would say. Tomorrow, southerly still, maybe about 10 knots. Very pleasant for getting out there, looking at some of these nice elos and the nice snorkeling that's there. And it looks like southeast winds on Thursday and Friday. And some observations, Noumea, southwesterlies 5 to 12 knots at the airport. Outer Reef, southwest 7 to 14. Ile de Pan, south-southwest to south 8 to 18, bit of a range. And Lifu, south-southeast about 6. So not too bad. Now, lastly, the opportunities to get to New Zealand at this point, I think are going to involve acceptance of one or maybe two of our three zones that we talked about. And again, these zones are the first ones, the islands to 25, and then 25 south to 30 south, and then 30 to 35. So between now and the end of the month, there are opportunities to leave, but you're going to have to deal with headwinds for one, maybe two zones.
Good.
You're just going to have to do it. They're not strong. They don't appear to be very strong. You're just going to have to deal with that if you need to get to New Zealand between now and the end of the month. You do have a motor. You do know how to tack, and that's the only way to get around it. What you will not compromise on, I hope, is bad destination weather. That's the third zone. I'm really serious about this. These RCC calls that we get at night are no fun. We get them every year. I think only an ignorant person is going to ignore bad weather at destination. So please be careful. Look at your models very carefully and go from there. So that's it for me. I'll pass it over to the chief. Any questions, comments, whatever, come down.
Okay, just a bit of an update from streaming. Valets in Blue Lagoon. I got a beautiful picture from Blue Lagoon. I think it was from, well, anyway, a beautiful picture. I think it was from Koromiko, who are underway at the moment. I wouldn't mind hearing from you guys to see whether I can copy you on the radio. But it does look a beautiful spot. We haven't been there. They had rain and thunder and lightning at the moment, and according to Bristol, they got that last night. Noumea, wind 5 knots southwest, and the whole of New Caledonia and the Loyalties are really enjoying much better weather at the moment than anybody else. Bar is 1012.5 and clear skies. Good morning to Kuhela. Where are we? Savi, good morning. Scoots 1012. Very light variable wind and high cloud cover in Savi, 27 degrees. I'm just looking at Fiji on the ice. It's Trophy. And Diamo's at Martangi, 50% clouds there, no rain and light northeast wind. So I guess they've got it to look forward to. All right. Is there anybody wanting to make contact? And I will probably need the relay or two. I haven't heard from anybody from Minerva. I wouldn't mind hearing what it's like at Minerva. We're standing by. Okay, I've got you much better now. Envy, go ahead. Okay, Envy are asking if they could, well, of course, you're quite away east, which is a bit of a problem, but they're looking, is it going to be possible to start moving south this afternoon? I think it being Tuesday and you're telling them that they need to be somewhere on Friday, like Opua, they're looking at whether they're going to get on their way this afternoon. He's looking at the conditions.
Give the position again.
He wants the position again. NV are at 2629er. But they're over at 17325 east.
Yes, they can get going.
Yes, you could get going, certainly by this afternoon, and try and make some progress. Over. He's just taking the microphone, so keep your ears handy.
Yeah, wrestling with this. The winds pick up around 30 south, so you've still got a ways to go. Right now, if you were to be there, we're looking at about 25 to 30 knots at 30 south. So you've got another day probably before you get down there, maybe less. But anyhow, between where you are and what I just gave you, the winds are quite a bit lighter. In the 15 knot, 15, 17, like that. Then they just inch up to 20, 25, 30. But as you get south, this system is going to move east and it'll get lighter. The only thing for you is that looking at, say, the between Wednesday, Thursday, like that, the winds are still going to be southwest. The good news is that I would say all the way down to probably 32 degrees south, they're going to be in the 15 knot range. So that's not bad at all. There'll still be some residual sea, but the high is starting to build in the Tasman, and I think that sea is going to come down. So, good idea. to try to get in, I think, before that next cold front. Over.
Okay, and a report in from Wire. Cetacea are there. It sounds like it was a real doozy, that storm that came through at 4:30 a.m. Don't you love it when they come through at that time? Currently at Wire, 12 knots from the south with high clouds. Koromiko, Gulf Harbour. Nothing heard. Is there anybody at Minerva that could let us know what's going on there? Please call.
It's amazing.
Well, I don't think we'll bother with Minerva anymore. Nobody's up and listening. Might be that they are all sleeping. All right, folks, is there any relays for anybody that I cannot copy?
Relay, Candy.
Hi, Candy. Oh, you've got a good signal from Luganville. Go ahead, Andrew. We can't hear him on that standby radio. You should put that standby radio. Oh, well, it's all right if you heard him. Ask him for a report, and you'll have to relay it. Over.
I knew he'd be listening.
No, there's nothing here from him.
Okay, midnight time has 3 knots, 18 knots from the north. Saying that Colombo 10 days left yesterday. But the 2 boats remain, midnight time in Ballina. Copy that call, please.
Yes, I did. 10 boats on their way yesterday, so they'll be certainly in by, boy, I'm glad I'm not on board. I don't think any number of seasick pills would cope with the swells out there for me anyway. But 2 boats left yesterday and, 10 boats left yesterday and 2 boats remained at Midnight Sun and Ballina. Thank you very much, with 15 knots from the north. Did I get that correct? Because you faded a bit then.
No, 18 knots from the north.
Yeah, got that. Thank you. 18 knots
the cloud
from the
cover.
north. And he wants the cloud cover. The cloud cover. Over.
100%.
We're just getting it chopped off a bit. Say again, cloud cover. Okay, 80%. Got it. Thank you very much. All right.
So the trough is coming.
So the trough is still coming. So hopefully all that left are doing okay. All right. Yeah, just need to make sure you've got some heavy weather gear on board if you go off in those conditions, folks. Actually, that reminds me, if anyone wants to buy a Paratech parachute sea anchor, we've decided we don't need ours anymore. Never been used, actually. With all the rope, etc., etc., it would suit a 38 to 48 foot boat. If anybody wants to gear up, upgrade their heavy weather equipment, let us know. We have a sea anchor available. Alright, I don't think there was anything else. Andrew, did you find anybody else trying to call us? Over. Good idea. Go ahead.
Anybody else out there to call in? Go ahead.
Somebody
What's
there.
Tuatara. Huppos. From the Huppos.
Now, calm down. Yeah, not there's people here. Nice and clear out.
Yeah, I know that they are there, just nothing to copy. Good morning. I don't know whether it was Pip But anyway, you are up in Vavau. I know you're going to get down to the Hupeyes before you leave for Minerva in New Zealand. But no, just check that you are on high power. But no, I couldn't copy you there. But at least we got a relay. And good to keep Andrew working there. Thanks, Andrew. I'm net control today, folks, on the Hamnet. If anybody is needing to make contact or wants to make contact, give us something to listen for. That's at 2100 UTC. All right, thanks, Andrew. And hope you and Claire are enjoying Luganville there. And we will be vacating the frequency if anybody wants to use it. It's all yours. Thanks for the help, everybody, and we will be back tomorrow at the same, well, early-ish, and starting the net certainly by 1900 UTC. Cheers, everybody. It's all yours. Oh, a decent signal today. Alan, where are you? Over? It sounds a pretty decent day at Port Vila too, so that's good. I guess you're stocking the freezer again. Over? Oh, well, the big spring clean. I'm sure Yachting World are doing lots of laundry, so yep, you better get organised. All right, yeah, sounds really nice day there. It's certainly better than here, but it is warm. It's about 16 degrees, so we're not complaining about the cold. It's just stormy.
Does he have any showers?
Oh, yeah, David wants to know, is it, have you had any showers there? I don't think so by the look of the reports, but has it been clear at Port Vila? Over? Ah, roger that. It's quite a bit of rain, so he's nodding his head. Yep, all right, so that just confirms things here. Thank you for that. Oh, well, greetings from us. And, yeah, are you guys going to do any cruising when Denise comes to New Zealand? We're going to be going right up north this summer, but not till January, February time frame. Over? Ah, roger that. Oh, well, we will catch up at some stage then. That'd be good. I'd like to meet Denise. All right, have a good day there, and just make sure everything's spick and span. Well, you don't want to get tidy too quickly because it will mess up again. So David usually does it the day before. So, all right, cheers, Alan.